Welcome everyone to Total War Therapy. This is the second episode of Total War roster guides, where we will talk about the units of all the faction of these games. The first one was about Zinj, and I admitted I made some mistakes, and yeah, overall the rhythm was quite slow, so I want to give a faster and quicker opinion about all the units of NURGLE. And yeah, as always, I ask you to consider to subscribe to this channel. I have big plans, and let's go. Let's start with the NURGLings. They are the true expression of the NURGLE roster and the perfect filler. So every time you don't know what to actually put, you can just add a unit or NURGLing. They are good to flank, to protect your more vulnerable units, even if actually NURGLE doesn't have. But yeah, it's a unit that actually aged very bad, because at the beginning they were the only kind of frontline, not that expensive as Plague Bearers or Forsaken, that you can actually, you know, cover your army. But after the introduction of the Warriors of Chaos, they lose some interest. I don't use them very much at all now, but still to be considered in your roster in the early stages of a campaign. Plague Bearers, with all their weaknesses, they are one of my favorite units of this roster. They are very slow, but they're still sturdy. They regenerate with magic and overall effects, and they are very hard, very hard hitting. They do a lot of damage, and even if they are slow, they have highly chance to die before reaching an enemy front line. If your enemy has a lot of missile power, when they reach it, they will do plenty of damage. They will stay there without moving, and they are so good. The exalted version is even better. They have missile damage that can use at the beginning with a low ammunition, but very strong. They can annihilate units just with that, and then when they start to hit with their poison damage and increased power, they are so far better than their normal version, and they are hard to die. That's not something very common for a demon unit. And yes, a very good cost effect, you know, even for a late game, and even if they are quite expensive, still very good, so approved. Warrior of Chaos, I'm not a big fan of these generic units added to all the Chaos Gods, but they are quite good. They do their effect. They are sturdy. They have poison, and yes, you can use them to hold the front line for the missile power of the enemy. But as you know, Plague Bearers and NURGLings don't have. They are good. They are shielded, and in the early game they can do a pretty good job. The Marauders with great weapons are good. I mean, they have armor piercing damage, and you can use them as a flankers or to hold the second line. You know, after the front line hit, you can use them to do an increased damage. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you need more than a couple of 4 units. And with all the damage that actually NURGLE can do, they are not my favorite suggestion, but still a pretty job. Okay, Warriors of Chaos and NURGLE, they are just the upgraded version of the Marauders, both for the shielded and for the great weapons part. They are good aesthetics. And yeah, they are kind of the ultimate front line for me when you want to create more Warriors of Chaos roster army composition instead of demonic one. They are very good. They have a good leadership compared to the demon units. And yeah, the same for the Great Weapons one. Chosen, if you already watched the video about the Zinj roster, I'm not a fan of Chosen because they are very expensive. The NURGLE one in particular, both for the shielded and the Great Weapons one, once they are almost indestructible. I mean, there is no way to destroy them for I mean, except if you don't have specific units to address them, but still they are too expensive. You can actually have monsters and very big power units except of them, and they are so slow that they can hardly be useful in a very versatile and dynamic situation. They can be good at sieging because they can absorb a lot of damage, but still, if they find a unit that can actually hit them, they will take all the damage back. And yeah, for the slowness and everything, I think they are not worthy at all. For second, actually, as I said, NURGLE already have a lot of big damage units like the Plague Bearers, if we want to do a comparison. So not that exceptional, and actually good introduced in this roster. They can represent a more faster and charging infantry in this roster, but still I don't have a good feeling with them in this particularly I mean, in all the army composition you can make with NURGLEs. You can use a couple of them as a flankers or to try to address faster units of the enemy, but yeah, kind of in the middle. I love Pestigors. They are so good, and actually I'm very sorry that they already introduced armor piercing damage units, infantry units with Warriors of Chaos, Marauders and so on, because they're actually very good, and I would have really liked to have them as the only armor piercing infantry option in this game. They have a wider formation than other infantry. That's why they're very good against artillery, magic and missile. They can actually flank very good. They are faster than normally NURGLE units, and yeah, they are so good. They're so good, and they are ultimate armor piercing units, infantry units for me. Plague Bearers are another very good addition to the NURGLE roster with Thrones of Decay. They are big. They actually have a good tier, so they are expensive, but at the same time they do plenty of damage. They can satisfy you. Don't worry, they have an amazing aesthetics, amazing animations, and they actually give you that feeling of filthy power. And yeah, this version is the anti-infantry one, and they are so good. You can use them to hold the second line or to flank the enemy, or they're faster than you know, common NURGLE units, so you can use them in plenty of ways. The same for the Great Weapons one. They're very good, specialized against cavalry and other big monsters, and you actually need to do this differentiation when you decide where to attack with all of your units. You can use them more in the rear guard to wait where the big monster of the enemy will attack, and then send them through them. And yes, they will do a very good job. Let's start with the cavalry, the Marauder, the Horseman Marauders of NURGLE. They're actually good units. The skirmish kind of units, they can be quite useful in the early stages of the campaign. And with the spears, they sacrifice a little of range, but they do a lot of damage. And yeah, they can do their job. They're still generic units, so I'm not a big fan, but kind of suggest. As I said, another generic units, they are chariots. They are tough one, armored, and they will do plenty of damage with poison. They can even slow down units when you charge them, and then you can hit them with other stuff. And yes, but you have to be very careful when the enemy has some dedicated units, because they can actually take down them very quickly. Chaos Knights, still generic, but I can assure they can do quite a pretty job. They are the perfect unit actually to put on your rear guard and just to protect the other units when it will be needed. They are fast, that you know, it's a good quality for a NURGLE unit, and they can actually deal a lot of situation. I prefer this version to the shock charge version, because they can actually hold the line when you will need to take care of enemy that will try, you know, to catch you from the flanks or from the rear. So yeah, very versatile and actually suggested in this roster. Rot Knights, another very good addition to the Thrones of Decay DLC. They are very tough, very fast, anti-cavalry, and yeah, you can use them. You don't need many of them in your roster because they are very, very good. You can use them to just follow and chase important units. Don't waste them with weak units, weak cavalry, because they can actually deal with monsters, heavy cav, and big characters. So yeah, they are very, very good. They are amazing. I would like them to have more animation, of course, but still they do a very, very good job, and I'm very happy to have even one of them in my roster, because they will take care of every dangerous situation that will occur. Okay, let's go to the beast, Warhound of NURGLE. They've been added with Champions of Chaos DLC. They are, I mean, not an awesome units. I actually don't use them in the campaigns, but I mean, I have to admit that they are a good one. They are fast, and it's not something granted in the NURGLE roster. They have poison, and yeah, you can actually use them for whatever situation to from engage missile, infantry, enemy units, or artillery. And I mean, they are more effective than a lot of other NURGLE units, given the, you know, the NURGLE feelings. So they're actually suggested. You can have one or two of them in the early stages of the campaign, and probably, as we will talk about, even later. Black Toads of NURGLE. They're actually very good. They have a good charge. They are fast. At the beginning of the NURGLE experience, the release of the game, they were actually the fastest not flying units in this game, and they're actually very, very good. They had a good charge, and you can use them to flank the enemy or in the rear. And since they are units, I mean, for the early campaign, they can do pretty good work against infantry, cavalry characters. So they are a very, very suggested one, but be very, very careful with the leadership, because when they started to take damage, they will go down very, very fast. The same for the Pox Riders. They're just the upgraded version, so not that much to add. They will hold the melee fight far better, but still, you can use them in the same way. Don't overuse them, you know, charging in the front line and so on, because they cannot take that much damage, but they have better leadership, and yeah, you can use them in the same ways, and they are very, very useful. Let's start with the flying units. Chaos Furies, still generics, that's why I don't like them that much, but they do their job, like the Chaos Hounds of NURGLE. They are very, very fast. That's why they can address artillery, missile units. They are weak, and they will take a lot of damage if I mean, they will address units that it's even little good in melee. But yeah, I would still think is probably the best flying units. Just useless, expensive and useless, expensive, useless, and absolutely no sense. Okay, let's talk about the Rotflies and the flying cavalry of NURGLE. I mean, in general, I really think they suck. I mean, they just suck. I try to use them in many ways, and I mean, I made a video about the Frostvirm of Kislev that can be useful if you use him, if you use it in the proper way. But about this flying things of NURGLE, absolutely no. They have a very, very low number. This version has even this little ammunition of something that actually no damage at all. And yeah, if you want to use a cavalry, I mean a flying units to address you know, enemy units, missile, artillery, and so on, you can just use a Chaos Furies. Even if they have low leadership, they will be faster. But I mean they're just useless in the whatever of their version, and I'm very, very sorry, because I really like the aesthetics and the idea of this big monster flies. It's actually very, very good, and I would like them to receive a buff with Thrones of Decay DLC, but we didn't, and they're still so useless. Every time you use them in the fight, they lose their combat, they lose a lot of leadership, and they took a lot of damage and they start to die. You cannot use them against characters, because characters will win, except if they have they are mages, but at that point you don't use these expensive units with even missile attack. No, I mean, no. And against other cavalry, flying or not flying, they would die. Against even little, I mean, probably they can address only light cavalry, but as I said, not at this price. Not at this price at all. I mean, the point is not to use far expensive units to address a very cheap one. No, they are expensive units, and you need an expensive way to use them, and they don't have. They suck at everything. They will need at least like to be to be a bigger number, or I don't know, bigger damage, bigger armor, bigger resistance and everything, but at this point of the game they are really shit. Okay, they are the first unit of the NURGLE roster. I can actually say they have a very bad aesthetics. I don't wanna say what they look like, but yeah, very bad. I mean, with earrings, I mean, NURGLEs with earrings, and no, okay, no, I really cannot. And but yep, but I mean, yeah, okay, let's forget about the aesthetics. From army composition view, they're actually good. I mean, I've been quite impressed. They are cheap, so they don't need a big amount of money or resource buildings and so on to be recruited, and they have regeneration. They do a lot of damage. You can use them on your second line or to flank, you know, same way as always, and they are very good. Quite impressed, and actually one of my favorite choices in the early stages of the campaign, so very suggested. The of course very generic NURGLE cow spawn. Yeah, nothing to say about. They are good. They have regeneration. They are they don't suffer of leadership effect and as you want, but yeah, nothing to say. I refuse to say every opinion about this. Another very useful units in the early stages of the campaign. The Beast of NURGLE has regeneration, a big charge, can take a lot of damage, and not that weak and prioritized with missile enemies. And yeah, they do a big job. You can just use it as a jolly in your army composition, of course in the early stages of the campaign, and go around, take their enemies, and yeah, it will do a very good job. That's why I like it so much. And yes, it will be basically like a character, even better at some point. And yeah, just be useful in whatever situation it's needed. Probably my favorite unit in this roster. It's big, it's fast, it's armored, and he has a missile damage that actually shocking. He can do a lot of damage just from distance, and then when we'll attack, he will be still sturdy. He will be with a lot of melee stats, and yeah, it's helpful in any situation. That's why I like it so much. And yeah, I mean, it's a robot, filthy robot, dirty, with a cannon on his hand. So I mean, I don't think there are other words to explain the amazingness of these things. And yes, the Great and Clean one, another very good choice, even for the late stage of the campaign. I mean, it's a unit that the trade-off between price and quality is still very high. Okay, so even if it's very expensive, it requires a lot of turns to be recruited. Yes, it's a very good choice for your army. You don't need a lot of them, but they can do actually everything. They can charge into the front line. You can use them actually, maybe not maybe as a flankers. You have just to put them in the middle of the fight and take all the damage that they can. They're very mobile because they have they have a big mass, so they can just move around and nothing will stop them. And yes, not that fast, and he will be easily addressed by missile units when there will be the need, but I can assure you a lot of quality. Okay, the last units of this roster, and a pretty good one, is the Toad Dragon. We waited so much for the Thrones of Decay DLC. They gave him probably some of the best animation in all the game. Probably the best one. and arguably, of course, but yes. And he has a breath attack that can be very strong, even if I forgot to use it most of times, admit it. Even one in your roster is more than enough, because it's very big. It can go wherever you want. He's fast, and yeah, everything. There is nothing that you can say about it. A lot of the buffs, and yeah, you can just charge around, and maybe that's the important thing, to use them in the best way, not just put it in the middle of the fight and leave it there to absorb damage, but actually leaving it charging around all the enemy army, because it will do a lot of damage. It will be unstoppable. I mean, of course, without specialized units against him, but yeah, if you put it charge around, it will destroy from the missile to the artillery to the heavy infantry and cavalry in your enemies, and yeah, it would do all the job. That's why it's so expensive, but so worthy and so disgusting. Okay, I hope you like my second roster. Of course, leave your feedback in in the comments, and see you soon with the next videos. I cannot tell you what will be about, but yeah, I'm trying to start new things, to see what I can do, how can I improve, and everything. I hope you will follow me more, and bye bye.